G'day, we are back in the New York groove, well, Point Crook anyway. We are back for 2021. It is January the 18th, I think it is. And today we're brewing it's in between. It's back to a hazy, I'm sorry. Although it can be brewed not hazy. It depends when you dry hop. It'll still clear up if you don't dry hop early. But it's somewhere between an NEIPA or a NEIPA, as the young fellas call them, and an IPA. I'm calling it an IPA. It's an oat IPA. I'm going to have lots of oats in there. I want a real silky, smooth body. I want a little bit of bitterness. It's not going to be as bitter as a normal West Coast IPA, probably around the 30 IBUs, but it's still going to have some of the qualities of the NEIPA. So it's going to be smooth. It's not going to be too bitter, but a little bit more bitter than some NEIPAs. It's sort of in the middle there. It's a hazy, oaty IPA. I'm calling Harpoon Hazy. This is the first beer I'm brewing for a good friend of mine that died, and I'm going to brew a series. We call him the Death Whale. So this is the Harpoon Hazy. Let's get into it. I'm not going to muck around. I am using naked oats. I haven't used them before. I've had them here ready for a stout. So we can have a quick look at what they look like. I'm using malted oats. If you haven't seen those, they're really good because they have a husk, so you don't need to use rice hulls with them. And I'm also using rolled oats, the old classic. And then I've got 4 kilo of Pilsner malt and 1 kilo of ale malt. That can be mixed up. You could use all ale malt, all Pilsner malt. I was using up a bag of Pilsner and I had another kilo of ale malt to use. Leftovers. Mine's going to be all Citra today. You can mix it up. You can use whatever favourite hop you want to use. But mine's going to be all Citra. It's going to be a nice, hazy IPA, oaty, which should give it a real smooth, creamy mouthfeel and that Citra goodness.
5 kilo of base grain, Pilsner, ale malt, whatever you like. So on top of the 5 kilo of base grain, we use some flaked oats here. You can use regular supermarket ones if you like. I tend to buy the quick oats from the supermarket. This here is the malted oats. They've been malted, but they still have a husk. That'll help with your flow, and you won't need as many rice hulls, if any at all. And this is the naked oats. These are malted oats, just like the ones we saw before, but with the husk removed. And that's why they're called naked oats. And just like when you're using rolled oats, since they have no husk, adding some rice hulls will help with flow. I mill the naked oats twice, so I put them once through by themselves, and then I whack them in with the malted oats and put them through again. Just because it's like wheat, they're small, they're hard, and I just want to make sure they all get crushed. For this batch, I'm starting with 31 litres, which is about 8.2 gallons. I have a strike water temp of 71 degrees Celsius, because I'm heading for a mash of 67 degrees Celsius, which is about 153 Fahrenheit. I add my salts and my lactic acid. Now the salts I'm using for this mash is 15.1 grams of calcium chloride and just 1.7 grams of gypsum or calcium sulfate and 4 ml of lactic acid. You might think that's a lot, but I'm salting this as an NEIPA, so I can throw a lot of hops at it, but it won't be too harsh. It should be nice and soft. This, of course, is all for Werribee water. And I start mashing in. What I do is I put a nice lump of just the normal grain, so we've got a lot of husk down the bottom. Then I'll throw the 500 grams of oats that don't need to be milled, mix them into the grain, and then add it all in together.
I think the more you play with it sometimes, the more dough balls you have. If I sort of let it sink down slowly, you don't get it, but once you start sort of stirring, I do. It's not always the case. This hasn't got rice hulls, of course, only because I haven't got any, otherwise I would have thrown some in. But it's got a lot of those naked oats which don't have husks, and the rolled oats which don't have husks, so there's a kilo of grain in here that hasn't got a husk. So it's going to get thick and it's going to get meaty, but that's okay. It would be a real struggle in the 35. It will work in the 35, but you'd have to work it a bit more. In the 65, because the grain bed's a bit wider and thinner, we won't have so much issues. The strike temp was 71 degrees. Looking for 67. So we should be pretty close to that already. I'll get the pump on soon. I'll just let this settle down a couple of minutes. Just making sure I can't see any dough balls. That is enough for me. I will use my little cable tie thing, and I just cut it just so I can see. That's about 2 inches up. It doesn't matter if we get right up to there, there's going to be plenty of water over the elements still. But if we start going up here somewhere, then that's when I can start to worry, give it a stir, slow down the pump. Get it in. I'm also using my new updated water profile, so it'll be interesting to see how the pH goes. That's be right there, we're pretty close to the grain. Turn the pump on. Wash down the sides. I won't have it on full, that's just ridiculous. Just probably about a third till we see how we're going. It's been another 5 minutes or so. It's come up, but not much at all. I might just turn it up a little bit. Not too much. Something like that. See how that goes. You'd expect it to come up, maybe an inch. So maybe up to there without any worry at all. Still going strong. It's barely even moved. Quite happy. So we've come in at 5.39. Beef Smith guessed 5.36. So like 0.3 out. I can't even be any happier than that. That's good. So we waited 15 minutes to take a pH reading. The pH reading takes 15 minutes to cool down in the freezer. We just took a reading, so we're about halfway through, about half an hour into it. Everything's looking good. Flow's okay. We could probably even turn it up, but I'm not going to bother. We haven't came up any. It's all just all good. All good news. See you in half an hour. There really has been nothing to see. The mash out, I'll just turn it up to my usual 76 and we'll leave it about another 15-20 minutes. That's mash out over. Because I turned the flow up, it probably ramped up in about 5 minutes. I put all the elements on and I've let it go for 10 minutes after that. We have came up, but we're still an inch below there, so that's still fine. We're still getting lots of flow. So it's time to pull the basket. I said basket. So we started with 31 litres and Beer Smith reckons about 7.5 litre sparge. I'll trust that today. You can always sparge a little bit more if you're worried and you're not sure on your volumes. So you might have got sparge 8 litres or 8.5. You'll likely be down on your numbers, but because you've got that extra sparge water, you can boil at the start to get your numbers where you want it and then start your timer for your 60-minute boil. Fifteen for 8 litres. So what I do when either that's sparging or when I'm coming up to the boil or boiling even, if you haven't seen in my other videos, if I'm using a counterflow chiller like this, I'll use my HLT. I had to move it, it was too high and over there anyway, it doesn't matter. And I'll set this to about 85-90 degrees. 90 degrees is probably my usual. And run it, just pump it and run it through my counterflow, and that way that sanitizes it for me. I don't have to run, I don't have to worry about putting sanitizer through it or running hot wort through it. I hate using the pump when you're boiling is really bad. One, it's not good for the pump. and two, you're going to drag hops in and all sorts of stuff, and that's when you're going to make a real mess of it. So if you've seen in my other videos, all I'll do is I'll run, as I said, this hot water through this, 20 minutes, half an hour, it doesn't really matter. And then as soon as this is finished, I can unhook that and put that onto my boil kettle and run the wort straight through that into my fermenter. Whatever you do, do not run, because this will get really soft, this outer pipe, and this is one of the old ones that's not reinforced. If you try and run water through here at a really high pressure, when this is red hot, like really, really hot, you're likely to pop it. I'm going for a pre-boil of around 1051. And it's going to be about, 5.7% beer or something like that. Oops, that didn't work very well, did it? Ow, it's hot. I'm just going to throw some yeast nutrient in 10 minutes before the end. You could use some Werflock, especially if you wanted it to clear up. Alright, we're just about at the end. I'm going to get rid of this thing that I used for the mash. And I'm just going to swap it over for the whirlpool arm. Now there's several ways you could do this. I'm going to wait till this gets down to 90 to add in my flavour hops. But you could use a chiller to get down to 90. I'm not. I'm going to rely on ambient temperature and whirlpooling to get it down, and hopefully it doesn't take too long. I know when I did my no-chill IPA, I think I waited till 95 and it happened within minutes. So we'll see how we go. But I'm just going to whirlpool, and just let it go with the lid off till it gets to 90. Then I'll add my hops. Turn the elements off. Now before I put the whirlpool on, wait for it to settle down. Otherwise you're pulling bubbles and gunk and you don't want any bubbles in your pump ever. Now I'm not worried about time here. Doesn't worry me. I could cover it to try and stop some evaporation. Just waiting for it to slow down. I mean, it's probably okay to go now. Now if this is full, just be careful because you will blow air bubbles through there, and it can splash up and burn you, and it hasn't done me before. Not so much when it's this empty, but when they're full on the 35 litre or whatever, you just got to be careful. Alright, turn on the pump. Now I'm just going to leave that naturally. We'll see what time it is. It's 4:52. We'll see what time it takes to naturally get down to 90°C. And it's quite warm in here today. I know it's probably it's got to be mid-20s, I reckon, today. I feel it's warmer in the shed, believe me. I should add, I'm going to take a reading. Now there's things to keep in mind. And this might take 10-15 minutes, and then there's another 10-15 minute whirlpool to have once the hops are in. You will get evaporation during that time. So now if I take a reading, you actually could get enough evaporation to change, your actual final, before you go on the fermenter reading, by a point or two. Just, there's lots of different factors, temperature, wind, all sorts of things. But we'll take a reading. We'll see how we go. Ow, ow. Don't burn yourself like I do every time I take a reading. I know you can't see the time because I'm using my time phone. We're down to 95 and it's 4:58, so 6 minutes and we were down to 95. From 95 to 90 could take a little bit longer. It's easier to knock that first bit of heat off. So I'm on the handheld, so if it's shaking, the camera's behind me, I should be using that, shouldn't I? You might ask why I'm putting in a whirlpool at 90°C hops, and it's because I do want some bitterness from it. I want flavour and I want bitterness. You're limited by being down to 90.
but it's going to give a real flavour. That's what we're after. So 100 grams of Citra. Now with the hop amounts, see, I'll put in 10 gram at the start and 100 gram flavour hops. Now if you wanted to save yourself buying another packet just to get that extra 10 grams of Citra for the start, you could use another hop. You could use Warrior or whatever, or Magnum. But you could also just, you could pinch, you could have 10 grams for the 60 minute and just use 90 as the flavour hop, 90 grams. You'd be fine. You'd be fine. I know there's some people that really like to get recipes and be given it and say, you must do this, but you don't have to be. It's organic, this brewing thing. You'll be fine. I'm just waiting for the whirlpool to drop down in temp. Oh, we're 93, so we're nearly there. That's been 9 minutes and we're at, I've dropped 7 degrees. We're just going to wait a couple more degrees and I'll throw the hops in. Down the bottom we're at 92 after 10 minutes. I thought I'd just see what the top is saying, even though it's circulating. The elements will keep it slightly hotter at the bottom. There we are. Oh, this is saying 90.2 up the top, 90.1, 90.2. So we're probably all right to go. What's it saying down the bottom? It's saying 92 down the bottom. And we're 90 up the top. So we're at 62. We'll see if it changes by the time, we've done the whirlpool and everything. So we are 1 point up in the end. It's 5:06. So it's at 8 and 6. That's 14 minutes. 14 minutes it took to get down to 90C. So I'm just going to throw in 100 grams of Citra. Oh, there we go. 100 grams of Citra. I might even give that a stir with a spoon just to make sure. They're breaking up pretty well by the looks. But when you do these kind of stirs at the end of the boil, to whirlpool by hand if you haven't got a whirlpool, you don't want to lift up that bottom screen, the false bottom, which can be done really easily if you stir too hard. Oops. That's enough. I just wanted to make sure they were broken up. And let's leave that for 15 minutes. If you want less bitterness, 10 minutes. That's about 15 minutes since I put the hops in. I'm going to go and turn the hoses on for the chiller and swap over things. As you can hear, that was the alarm. So now all I do, as you've probably seen me do it in the other video, turn the whirlpool alarm off. Now you can do two things here because we're already at about, I'll just double check that, we're at 82 degrees now, so we're not really going to get any more bittering. But we take that off, and there for cleaning, and we hook up the one we were using to recirc, from the HLT to sanitize our chiller. We can go back into the brew kettle and get the whole lot down under that 70, 30, whatever degrees before we start going into my fermenter, and that'll just stop any more bittering going on. So without ado, I'll turn the pump on. You can see there that's going to be going through there and back down into there shortly. There we go. But so I'll just let that go. As I said, probably just till it knocks. It won't take long at all. That'll knock the top off the heat really, really quickly. As I said, I could go straight to the fermenter, but I'm just knocking that extra little bit of heat. We're at about 82 degrees. If I knock it down to 70 or even down to 60, we know we're not getting any more bittering from those hops. So slow it down a bit like that. Give it some time to catch up. It might take 30 seconds to catch up.
Bang, we're already down 20, yeah, we're going down fast. Back it off a bit more. Again, like, give it time to adjust because you got to wait for all that wort to come through. I have a feeling our groundwater might be quite hot today because in the middle of winter this would be coming out at about 10 degrees at the moment. You see, we're going down now. Alright, so by the time I put this in the fermenter, if I go straight in the fermenter now, there's no worries at all. That'll likely be, well, it'll be under 22 easy. Closer to it, that's about where I want to pitch, 21. And then I'll ferment it, I'll leave that 6 hours or so, and then I'll put it to 19. That'll do, mate. Let's go straight into the fermenter. Let's just turn it off. Now, I am paranoid. I've been playing with the end of that, and it's going to be going all inside my fermenter. So a little bit of alcohol sanitizer is not going to hurt. That will sanitize it nearly immediately. Is the camera on it? I can't see where we are. And that's just a little bit in the hose, and we'll go straight into there. Wort everywhere. That's alright. I'll spray it with sanitizer again in a sec. And then let's just get into the fermenter, eh? And while it's all mucky and everywhere, I don't want anything outside the fermenter. So this is just stuff and I won't waste the alcohol for this one. Wash the fermenter down. So a good time to take a reading. Oh, it smells good. So this is after the whirlpool and everything. You can hear it going into the fermenter over there. We'll see if we've changed. What were we? 62, I think. 63. So we've gone up a point just in that whirlpool. And that would be from a bit of evaporation, I would guess. So that's it. We're at 1.063. .1:20 p.m. Thursday. I made this on Tuesday and finished at about 6 p.m. I'm going to dry hop. It took a little while to get started. I only used 1 pack of yeast. I probably could have used 2, but you know, it's going. 100 grams of Citra. You know, use whatever you want, your favourite hop. I'm just going to get this out of the way because I let some pressure out. And not too much. Oh, did I let too much out? So that's coming up by itself. I don't have to pry it off. Yep. That lifted up by itself. Watch it doesn't pop off if you've got too much pressure in there. That's why you shouldn't go too hard if you're going to dry hop. And of course, do not forget, which I've seen people do a lot, forget to put the spongy valve back on. I'm not purging, just leave it. If I purge you with CO2, you'll probably knock that krauseness away, and there's no need to. The CO2 will push all that oxygen out well and truly before it gets down into your wort. So it's now Sunday night, and the krausen's been what I would say persistent.
I guess that's from all the proteins from the oats and things. And the tilt seems as if it's stuck. Like sometimes they get gummed up. It's not very often, but a beer's like these huge sort of beers with big dry hops and big gummy stuff. Look, you can even see it on the pickup tube over there. It's like gunk. And I reckon that is what is on the tilt. Because it was going on a steady downward, normal ferment, and then it's just sort of flatlined, which is near on, impossible unless my yeast has died, but I don't think it has, because it's been fermenting and, So, although I haven't taken a reading, I'm going to dry hop today. It's been Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's been 5 days. So the last dry hop, normally for a beer like this, for me, will go in. If you want to be totally technical, you would, of course, take a reading. But I'm confident that I can sort of see, even though it's probably hard to catch on camera, I can sort of see, although there's still a lot of krausen in the centre, it's dropping at the sides here. It's very thin. And I just think if I wait till the morning, that might be gone. I want to dry hop just before ferment's finished as usual, so I don't have to purge the fermenter. I don't have to do anything like that. Just adding the hops will stir it up a bit and push out any oxygen that might get in there in that brief moment I have the lid open. So I'm just going to grab whatever Citra I have left in the freezer and whack it in. I don't have a full 100 gram packet, but I know what that is. It's probably over half a pack there, easy. And I have a little bit left there. I do have a massive amount turning up tomorrow of Citra, but I think I need to get this in now. And the main one of 100 grams, which is mostly flavour, is already in there, of course, and this is just like a little bit of a pick-me-up before the end of the ferment for a bit more aroma. So that'll be fine. I actually had way more than expected. Had about 80 grams. Look, I think, 75 grams each dry hop would probably be enough. I'll also bump the temp up from 19 to, I think I'm on 19.5 actually. I'm on 19, I'm going to bump it up to 20. That'll just help me finish off, even 20.5 would be alright. Yeah, that'll be alright. I still haven't taken a reading yet. This is the next day, this is Monday. So it's a week tomorrow that I brewed it. But I can definitely tell that is stopped. There's a little lump in the middle, a tiny little bit of yeast action, but where the krausen is mostly gone, there's a lot of hop on the top. But so I think I timed that just right. See how it is in a couple of days. So today I came out. The tilt reading hasn't changed really. I mean, it's fluctuating between 1020 and 1021 and 1026, and it's been that way for a good 3 or 4 days. The krausen's gone right down. It's a little bit hard to see. It just looks like hops on top. Down the bottom, I can see there's the yeast at the bottom, and all the hops have dropped out. That tells me that there's no action going on. And since the tilt isn't helping me at the moment, I took a sample. And the way I do that is just with a short tube with a disconnect and a party tap on the end. Don't leave that connected though, they're very easy to bump and you'll lose your fermenter or keg if you're using one on a keg. But let's get the hydrometer in and see. We have to be done, or I've had a massive stall with Verdant yeast. About 14. So it had been at stable gravity for a good few days, 3 days. I decided to cold crash it. And it only got down to 15. You know, it was about an hour and a half since I started the cold crash. And as you can see, all those hops dropped immediately out. That's 15 on the outside. It's probably warmer on the inside still. And so if it was still fermenting, there'd be crowes in there. That yeast would ferment at 15 degrees without any worry in the world. I already knew it was done, but that just proved it. Again, when you make these huge dry hop beers, you need to cold crash them for a couple of days, 3 days even better, maybe even 4, to settle all that hop matter out. And if you give the fermenter a little bit of a swirl now and then, it'll help them drop out and also help them fall down the sides of the fermenter. Now it's off to the keg. G'day, g'day, g'day. Here is the tasting video. It's going to be a little bit rushed. We've just been told we're going into stage 4 lockdown, and we're trying to get across the border tonight to New South Wales, so hopefully I get to finish this and edit this video and get it up, because people are wanting to see it. They keep seeing me post pictures of this beer online, and it's a beautiful looking beer. The camera here doesn't do it justice. I'll put some photos up if I can. It's going to be a bit difficult. I'm going to have to try and edit these on the road, this video, so I might not get up till I get back. Stop yakking. This is the Harpoon Hazy. Massive aroma. Big Citra aroma, as you'd expect. There's 180 grams worth of hops in the dry hop. It's a beautiful looking beer. It's got that yellowy, really faint orange glow that makes these beers look really beautiful sometimes. Full of flavour. You couldn't squeeze any more flavour into that. It kind of reminds me of that Needs More Citra beer from Blackman's. I think the body of the beer's a bit different. It's not as big and creamy as I thought it would be with all those oats, but it doesn't matter. I think the bitterness has overtaken that. It's just a lovely beer. I'm really, really enjoying it, and it's one of those beers that I've had on the keg and you just can't stop having every day. You're trying not to drink through the week, and you can't. You've got to taste it every day. So I apologise for the sound and everything. There's no mic for this. We're on my old camera. I'm stacking things off the ground just in case this garage floods where we're gone, like it did last time I went to Sydney. It flooded. So I'm just trying to get the most valuable stuff off the ground and try and cross the border, get out of Victoria for a little while, because the daughter and my wife haven't seen their family still for over 13 months, so nearly 14 months now. So we don't want to go into lockdown again. The mum's 70th birthday and their 50th wedding anniversary, something like that, all this weekend. Anyway, I'm yakking on. Cheers. It's a great beer. Big beer. If you haven't watched the whole video, make sure you cold crash these dry hop beers a lot. I always get these comments that people they're too bitter, and that's because they probably didn't dry hop enough, and they probably emptied their fermenter and they were picking up gunk. You got to leave all that gunk behind out of the keg, otherwise it'll settle out in the keg, and it might come good in a little while, but initially, or that'll settle out the bottom of the keg and it'll be bitter, horrible beer. But this is lovely. I'm really enjoying this one. I'd love to do one. I might do it with Amarillo. I'd really like a mix, Citra Amarillo. I think it's a bit simpler than a lot of the other beers to brew, and it's just tasty. Anyway, this was for my mate Dave. Cheers, Dave. Take it easy. Thanks to my viewers, Patreon. Sorry, neighbour just went past. G'day, mate. Thanks to my viewers, to my Patreons. Like, subscribe, share. Cheers. Stay safe.